Hey there gamers, I'm Pruitt, this is Jim Davis, and today on WebDM we're talking rogues. So let's book it like we stole something. Take it away, Jim Davis. All right, Jim, let's get sneaky with it.
Yes.
Let's talk about rogues.
In our first show over classes, I was kind of like, I'm not a rogue guy.
Right.
Having played a rogue for 14 levels,
Yeah.
I am a rogue guy in 5th edition, and I consider them, along with bards and paladins, the best designed classes in 5th edition. I look at the rogue, they have something every level. They are incredibly versatile. Mm-hmm. They can contribute meaningfully to all pillars of play.
Yes.
They hit all the right rogue notes that I want to hit. They are not the damage machines of 4th edition, nor are they the, sit in the back because I'm too scared to get into combat of sort of earlier editions of the game.
Right.
So I'm happy to recommend for anybody, play a rogue.
Play a rogue.
Today, do it tomorrow, roll up a rogue, do it.
Running the Spelljammer campaign, I loved your character so much, Zelo.
Yeah.
Holy crap. The ultimate in paranoia and like how you run a character who is constantly thinking about how to get one over on everyone.
Right.
Because they're obviously going to get one over on him.
They're
already planning it.
They're already planning it, and I think that the rogue lends itself well to that kind of paranoid play style because they have something for everything. Yeah. Caught off guard, you've got plenty of ways to get out of dodge, to survive a round of combat. You're tough enough that anything that comes after you, you've either got enough defenses with uncanny dodge and evasion to get out of there, slippery mind. Depending on what style of rogue you are, you have a lot of options. High damage dealer being the assassin.
Yeah.
The thief, more of a classic sort of thief acrobat type character. Or the arcane trickster, supplementing what they can do with a little bit of magic. And unlike, say, the Eldritch Knight, where evocation and abjuration are, you might want more like transmutation and abjuration with an Eldritch Knight. Illusion and enchantment for the arcane trickster is perfect.
Yeah.
It is absolutely what you're looking for. You're going to get all the spells you need, and then getting those 3 or 4 from outside of the other schools is just kind of a bonus on top of that.
Right.
Be sure to grab Find Familiar at 3rd level, because then you always have advantage. So you always will have sneak attack.
Yeah.
Find Familiar, help action. So I think that like the rogue has like all of this stuff going for it, and it's a really fun class to play. I almost, even after having played 14 levels of Arcane Trickster, I look at the rogue and I go, now I gotta do a thief, and now I gotta play a mastermind, and now I gotta play an assassin. Okay. And I'm inspired to play other subclasses of it, even though I already have played a rogue up to high levels.
Well, what would you say your favorite part of the Arcane Trickster was, having played one for so long? Because I have like one moment that I was completely caught off guard with as a DM.
So I think for me, my favorite parts of it are, you have all these different tools that you can use to supplement your role as the party scout and sort of sneaker. Rogues are probably not the sneakiest class in 5th edition. I think probably sneakiest goes somewhere between Darkstalker, Ranger, or Shadow Monk. I think those are probably sneakier classes, but the rogue gets tons of things that help them sneak, and particularly in Arcane Trickster, they can supplement with fog cloud, invisibility, illusions, giving themselves the disguise self, the kinds of things they need to get in somewhere and get out without being seen. I think my favorite moment as an Arcane Trickster might have been when we snuck into the Atkin Consortium factory, and it just had to be like, okay, they can't know we were here.
Yeah.
We have to sneak in without leaving a trace, and how do we plan that, and who can come with me? And it was pretty much like, well, the druid can come with me because she can polymorph into a sparrow, and that was kind of it. No one else had the chops needed. Even the wizards were unable to sustain the number of spells that they had. They didn't have the skills necessary to sneak in. It was the combination of skills and magic from the Arcane Trickster that allowed me to play them the way that I wanted to, and that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, doing some corporate espionage.
Some corporate espionage. I mean, there have been moments in the game where I've surprised myself with how much damage that you do with Booming Blade and Sneak Attack.
You get a good burst.
You get a good burst. It's not up to fighter or ranger or paladin levels, but it's good. It's decent damage.
But you consider them like kind of a support.
Yeah.
So, the fighter or the paladin have done their thing, and then the rogue comes in
and delivers that final blow.
and delivers that final blow. I mean, when you drop, however much, I mean, because you drop some major damage in a burst.
And it's reliable as long as you have that, as long as you have advantage or the help action or even just fighting near other allies.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where I'm at with the rogue. There's something at every level. It's a class where if you don't like dead levels, if you are just like, I cannot stand to get to 6th level and have there be nothing.
Yeah.
Because that's usually, for some classes, right around 6th, 7th level is where you start to be like, well, first couple of levels you get something all the time, then there's an ability score increase, then 5th level. But for the rogue, it's like, do you want something every level? We will give it to you.
Yeah.
You'll always have something, a couple extra ASIs, meaningful participation in the social game, meaningful participation in exploration, good damage in combat. And I love the class. I think they're amazing. So what was your favorite
My
part
favorite
for the Arcane
moment,
Trickster?
man, you pissed me off when you did this because I was not expecting this, but early in the campaign, it was when I had a druid who came in with a fog cloud at the race, like literally the first adventure.
Yes,
To sneak all the orcs into Nero's gates, right? And then y'all go out and you find this druid and start fighting them, and you use your ability to use your mage hand.
Oh yes, the mage
to
hands.
do a sleight of hand and steal the ring that was on the druid's hand,
Yes.
which was I believe a ring of water elemental control.
It was either. I think that might have been where I got my ring of spell storing. I think that's.
Oh
when I picked it
no!
up.
Yes, that's what. I'm sorry.
It was loaded
Well,
with a lot of water control spells.
Yeah, what you didn't know is that was a ring of water elemental control.
Oh really?
And when you did that, I changed it because I was like, I'm not handing them a fucking ring of water elemental control. Pardon my French. At like 3rd or 4th level. A ring of spell storing is a little bit more reined
That is
in.
a lesson for DMs everywhere. Do not include a magic item on an NPC if you do not want to risk it ending up in the player's hands.
Well, I just, because the whole thing was, yeah, you might have taken out all their minions, but they're a druid. They can get away.
They can
I
get away,
wasn't expecting, like, if anything got hairy, it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to turn
gonna
into
get
a
away.
bird or turn into a fish, and you're gone.
And you're gone.
But you didn't do that. You're like, hey, I'm gonna try to sleight
hand.
of hand on that ring on his hand.
Yeah,
I'm like,
and
I'm
so-
sorry, what?
and so
You can't do that. I'm like, no, I can.
Bonus action, I can use Mage Hand to perform sleight of hand checks. Go check sleight of hand. Yep, sleight of hand. You can remove that's what it's for. Pickpocket. Can I remove it and roll really well?
You rolled really well, and I rolled crappy.
Yep.
And I just sat there and was just like, I can't do this. So, I mean, you took the ring, and you needed to identify it, so at least until, I was fretting so hard, like, I can't give them this. It's too powerful of an item, like, this early. And then it was just like, wait a minute, what did they see them cast out of that?
Right.
I'm like, how could that? I'm like,
Ring of spell storing.
And they
Ring of
had-
spell storing is perfectly fine. It's an amazing item, useful for any class at any level.
Exactly.
You
But
know.
it's not what the other is.
Yeah, I get
So
you.
anyway, so back to rogues.
Back to rogues.
I've played a thief in a one-off.
And so I have as well. They're fun class to play.
And they're a lot of fun with the expanded fast hands. You get the use object, which is one of my favorite thing in thieves, in rogues playing in the past. Is you always want to have, I always loved them having a trick for everything.
Right.
They're like Batman.
Yeah,
Like,
they have
I
a
see a
utility belt.
rogue. They have a utility belt
Yeah.
with your caltrops, with your ball bearings. You want to have some flour in there.
Yep.
You want to have some sand.
Yeah.
Because you want to be, if somebody's invisible, throw some flour, some
Throw
sand.
some flour
on.
and sand on the floor. Let them start leaving tracks. You can use sand to help find traps.
Yes,
pouring it
or
over.
secret doors. If you're looking for an airflow, I mean, I would say if you said, hey, I want to use some flour and I'm going to run along the walls looking for secret
looking for
doors,
that secret door.
I would give that person advantage on that
Absolutely.
on that search check.
Absolutely, and I think that really highlights and brings in a style of play that was more prominent in older editions before they had skills, before you rolled for these kind of things, and it was all question and answer.
Yeah.
What does the room look like? How do I interact with it? I think bringing in those kind of items and describing what does it look like when your rogue searches for traps. Are they running their knife along seams of the stone and the floor of the dungeon? Are they pouring sand to find where the pit traps are?
Waiting for the
Inevitable thing. Are they poking with that 10-foot pole to try to trigger traps before it gets out of control?
If you're ever wondering why a 10-foot pole has always been in the equipment, that's why.
It's why. Because you tap the section of the floor because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't want to be the first one walking out front. And so I think that equipment list and the fact that the thief has those actions as a bonus action really should highlight the fact that the thief as a character, even if at the end of the day you're asking for a perception check or an intelligent, or a disable device check with your thieves tools. Even if it's something like that, DMs ask the player to describe, hey, what does your rogue do? What does it look like? And then get the players to think about it. How do they do these things? How do they search for secret doors? How do they search for hidden compartments? What does it look like when they, when they check for traps? I'm opening up a lock on this chest. I'm going to put a big wooden block in front of the keyhole and sort of do this so that whatever dart comes out is going to hit that block. Right. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that players can describe their character's actions, give them advantage on it, maybe give them a small bonus if you don't want to give them as big a bonus of advantage. Maybe a D4 on their roll, basically a guidance that they've given themselves. It's another way to handle that sort of situational bonus. And I love the fact that you can now play a rogue that has a tool belt, a utility belt for all those situations. I think it's great. Absolutely amazing.
The assassin.
The assassin, yeah. I mean, the assassin is one of those classes where, if you want to do a lot of damage to a creature very quickly, the assassin is not a bad deal. They have some situationally interesting powers that I think would be really good with a spy subclass.
Yeah, if you want to be like a James Bond, or you're kind of a little bit. If The Talented Mr. Ripley is your favorite movie,
right?
Taking other people's identities.
Taking other people's identities.
That's what you want to do. Hey, that's great. I've never I love James Bond, but I've never wanted to put forth the time and effort in my role playing to be someone else because I'm already doing that technically by role playing.
Technically by role playing. So the assassin gives you the ability to do that. Of course, I would say assassin is perfect for James Bond, given his skill set. And it also gives you that ability, like get in close to a target. If you like impersonating them, taking the actor feat along with the assassin abilities is a good way to sort of mix those two things, become a little bit stronger. And then also, obviously, just the pure damage potential that they have on that first round of combat. I predict a lot of rogue rangers now, or a lot of assassin rangers at this point, with the new ranger playtest material out, just because it's so important to go first in initiative, to get that good damage in, and boost it up as many ways as you can, getting as many attacks as you can, throwing as many dice out on the table. Assassins can lay the hurt on some creatures.
When it's just an automatic crit.
Yeah.
I mean, what more do you want?
I think for people who that's what they want out of their rogue. They want the damage. They want to be the damage dealer. Then going assassin is going to give you that.
Yeah.
Now, there's less of a reason, people say, to stick with assassin beyond 3. I would say stick with it. Just go be a pure assassin. You're getting that sneak attack damage. You're getting all the class features of a rogue. So you're still going to be competitive in combat, as well as having all the things you can do outside of it.
Yeah.
It's tempting to dip into fighter or paladin or something for that, but try just a pure assassin, see how it works out for you.
We'll discuss that more later, though.
Right. And then, the mastermind is one of those classes that we've seen in a couple of one-shots.
Right.
But that we haven't really had anybody play. I think it would be, or sort of over the long term, it seems like to me that in a game that doesn't use flanking rules, or that there's no reliable source of advantage, that bonus action help is going to be really powerful.
Considering you can, is there anything stopping you from attacking and then helping them?
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, so you go first, get advantage because you attack from hiding.
Right. Give
your fighter the help action as they move up.
Yeah.
And then they get advantage.
And they get advantage for that. I think there's a lot of ways that you can use that in combat, out of combat. They seem like really good characters for more of the social games. So if you're playing a campaign where politics and alliances and navigating those interactions is important to you, and you don't want to use magic, trying out the mastermind rogue and seeing how that goes for you would be a good way to play that character.
Like we've done with the other classes. We've talked about them now in game. If you wanted to focus on these on the rogue and spotlight the rogue.
A more rogue-centric game. I'm thinking you watch as many Godfather, Sopranos, as many organized mafia films as you enjoy. You soak yourself up in some organized crime, and then you go run yourself a Thieves Guild game.
Yeah.
And the party are members of a small Thieves Guild, maybe a small-time kind of thing, and there are other rivals. Go read Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser stories, and their interactions with the Thieves Guild in Lankmar are great fodder for adventures.
Yeah.
Set it in one single city. Never leave that city, and just have everything that happens take place in this giant urban environment as you fight out turf wars between rival gangs. You're getting in on the magic item smuggling business. You're taking out that they're taking out that guild of were-rats that is so much trouble in the sewers.
They always are.
They're always there. They are always in the sewers, and they're always causing trouble, those damn were-rats. That would be a more rogue-centric game. You might play highwaymen or bandits out on the countryside, more of a Robin Hood style thing where you're fighting against corrupt and evil overlords. Maybe you're members of the Harpers or a similar organization that's sort of a terrorists for good, as it were, in the Forgotten Realms. But DMs will also need to keep an eye out for some rules issues that relate to rogues that 5th edition's less than helpful on.
Yeah, it's odd that something as obvious as stealth could sneak by the editors.
I want to know, are the fuzzy are the fuzzy sort of like half-baked rules for stealth a feature or a bug? I can see it from both angles. I can see it being a feature because that then gives DMs the opportunity to say, this is how I want stealth to work in my game.
Right.
The developer said, hey, we gave you a basic framework, some ideas and guidelines for how to go, make up your own rules. I appreciate that kind of flexibility in the rules. On the other hand, I didn't buy the player's handbook for suggestions. I bought the player's handbook for rules that I will then use in my game. And the fact that there really aren't any stealth rules. And so DMs are going to have to figure out how does stealth interact with vision and sort of line of sight and obscurement. How do you want that to work? What movement? How does movement work with stealth? The Ranger and Rogue suggest that there's some kind of penalty for moving at full speed.
Well, there's rules for that, but it's group movement.
But it's group movement in the travel section, so it's not entirely obvious how they interact. Those are areas where, if you have a player who's really relying on stealth, like a rogue, you owe it to them to figure out, okay, how does stealth work in the game? Is all it take beating a creature's passive perception with your stealth score? Is that it?
Yeah.
How do you need to figure out cover rules and in describing your environments, letting the rogue player know, here are the places that you can hide.
Right.
So that when they consider the environment that you've described to them, they don't see a featureless plane that their primary means of being able to deal damage, do their job, sneak about, has really been denied to them because you didn't give it to them.
Yeah.
That said, occasionally maybe you throw an encounter in where they can't stealth.
Yeah.
And that's sort of a weakness for them occasionally.
They sneak up to the second floor of the warehouse, open it up, and it is a featureless warehouse, completely brightly lit.
Right.
With their goal right in the middle.
Now that's a challenge for them to try to figure out how to get.
Of course,
that.
I would just climb to the roof and rappel straight down.
Mission Impossible style.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that DMs are going to want to figure out.
Going back to the stealth rules, though, like, how fast can you move while stealth?
Right.
It doesn't actually say how fast you can move. There's a rogue ability that says, "Oh, you can move at full speed."
Right. So
but it doesn't
mean half. Yeah. What does slow pace mean? Does it mean half? Does it mean not? Those are questions that the DMs are going to have to answer.
How do we handle it? Just to give everyone out there, like, how do we deal with it?
So I treat it as a pretty much baseline, simple skill check. The creature has passive perception. If that creature with passive perception has an ability that gives them advantage, obviously they get a +5 on that. So like a dog has easier to detect because of their scent ability. And then it's just a stealth roll after that. However, there do need to be things in the environment that the player needs to consider.
Yeah.
It needs to be there needs to be plausible cover, a way to keep out of line of sight of something, whether that's sneaking up behind them, making sure their back is turned, whether that's using cover or some kind of heavy obscurement. They need to be out of sight, whether it means invisibility.
Doing it at night.
Doing it at night, which brings up the fact that rogues, you're going to want dark vision from somewhere. I'm sorry, human and dragonborn and halfling rogues. That sucks for us. But it does mean that you're going to want dark vision from somewhere.
Right.
Whether a spell or Skulker, or Skulker's kind of a poor man's dark vision. That's why you brought along a druid to cast dark vision on you. Or a wizard. And then for me, I usually do, you're moving at half speed.
Yeah.
You are sneaking about. You are moving deliberately and carefully. If a player said, I want to move at full speed, I'd probably impose disadvantage on their roll,
Right.
which means you get in a weird situation where if a heavy plate wearer wants to try to sneak about, then they're best off doing it quickly because you can't stack disadvantage.
But that makes sense though.
Yes.
If you're in full plate, you're going to want to try to do it as fast as possible,
fast
and
as
you're
possible.
already doing it at disadvantage.
Yeah.
So it kind of works.
It kind of works. Yeah.
But when you talk about stacking like invisibility with sneaking.
And so this brings up a point in our first show on rogues. We kind of talked a bit about how sometimes the wizard can step on the rogue's toes. I don't think that's a problem in 5th edition. It is difficult for casters to stack spells the way they used to in other editions of the game. They can't be flying and invisible and gaseous and whatever. They have to pick one or the other.
Right.
And invisibility does not mean automatically you're undetectable. It's still possible to hear them breathing, smell them, throw flour on the floor and see where they're standing. Sort of, you're unseen, but not necessarily hidden.
Right.
So a wizard is better off casting invisibility on the rogue, who's already good at stealth and can already get in there, than they are the wizard casting it on themselves and then joining the rogue. And maybe that's why you bring along a sorcerer, so you can twin that invisibility. Now both of you can go. But I do think that the rogue is best used as a platform for buffing spells rather than those buffing spells replacing the rogue.
Yeah.
Throw a pass without trace and invisibility on your rogue and watch them ghost their way in somewhere, get what you need, come back out, no one's the wiser.
Right.
Set up an ambush somewhere, bring the enemy back to you. That's the kind of thing that buffing the rogue and working, finding those ways which your spells can make another character better are really going to work out. Same thing with like haste and fighters and barbarians. That's just kind of what you want to do.
Well, that's pretty much it. That was I forgot.
Yeah, there was like 3 minutes.
It was 3 minutes in before I hit the timer thing. Trev.
Remember Tauntauns?
Trev, you remember rogues?
Remember feeling safe?
Remember feeling safe from rogues?
Remember dungeon crawls?
Remember rogues?